your lights out.
Welcome, Rick. Thanks for coming tonight.
My name's Rick. So I'm one of the local Navien reps. There's 3 or 4 of us running around. So our office is over in Strongsville. I have a inside guy. His name's Bill. He answers all my Navien questions inside. He also knows all the parts, so you can call us if you need help or need help sizing. We do design. We do design for Snowmelt Radiant for Vega as well. So we can put systems together. So we keep parts just to get you out of trouble, mainly. So if you need something, and even if they're going to overnight it, but you need it faster because it's a boiler and you need heat, you can come over and grab a part from us, and then when Navien sends you your replacement part, just drop it back off. So we'll leave parts outside for you. If you need to come and get some, I've had people come in on the weekend to get parts, so we'll try to help you out if you need stuff. Hopefully you don't need stuff, but you never know, you might. So I have this presentation kind of put together where I'm starting with our water tube boiler, but I'm kind of going through the NHB because that was our first real boiler, and then some combi stuff, and then some other boiler equipment. But I wasn't sure if you had, the NHB's been out for a little while. It was our introduction into the boiler market. That's the picture of it. You got one sitting back here. We make a number of different sizes of this thing. We're going to be doing a big upgrade, I think 3rd quarter of this year to this unit. So it's not going to be huge upgrades. And you're going to see some of the upgrade parts. It's going to be new control, new electronics board. We're going to extend the venting out. We're going to increase. This got a 15:1 turn down ratio on the smaller units. We're gonna take that across the whole board. So those are the little upgrades. You're gonna see them in some of the new equipment that I'll go through. Those upgrades are coming through all the units. We're gonna change the designation to NHB with the number and then put the little H after it. So we're basically our heating boiler. All of our standard boiler equipment is for heating only right now. I don't have any boilers that will do domestic hot water, but we are going to introduce one later this year that'll be approved for domestic hot water. With the combi, of course, you get a boiler and a hot water heater in one, so you can do both setups.
What's the temp limits on that?
So these units, if you're doing outdoor reset, they will get up to like 194.
Okay.
Without outdoor reset on the keypad, really 180 is what you can go to supply temperature. But that is going to increase to 185 as well. But with outdoor reset, it actually will run to 194. And then they all have a programmable 30-minute boost at 30%. So we can even go higher than that if we're not maintaining temperature. You can program boost into those for up to 30 minutes, and that'll jump you another 30%.
Okay.
So all of our units are 2 or 3 inch venting, PVC, except for my commercial boiler, it's straight 3 inch. So that's kind of, the commercial boiler, we do in 300,000 and 399, so when we get to that level, we have to change some stuff because of, the temperature and the water we're putting through that. So, just real quick, the NHB, 4 sizes, 55, 80, 110, 150, they're all 95%. You can see the turn down ratios. You can see the ratings of those boilers. That's on the literature. This has not changed. The product itself has not changed. And when we come out with the new version, none of this bottom stuff is going to change at all. Our warranty again, all of our boiler equipment, straight boiler is 15 and 10. We're going to 5 years on the commercial side of the warranty. And you get 1 year labor from the date of install. The combi warranty is a little different. That's a 10-year warranty, not 15. And when you get into the fire tube boiler equipment, we start prorating that warranty at 12 years. And again, that's in your manual. So, and I'll show you some slides, but it is by far the best warranty.
You start prorating it at 12, or?
Yes, at 12.
And it goes out to what, 15?
15, yes. So I think it goes to 75% and the 50% and the 25%.
Less.
Pretty standard, I think. So I don't know if you want to run through, because this, this is pretty straightforward stuff. This is kind of our old style control. We're moving away from this, because this thing has dip switches on top. It's all push button. You gotta have the manual if you wanna get into any parameters or error codes. We're going all touch screen or LED backlit screens with a little dial. We're getting rid of all the dip switches that were on that keypad. So we won't have any dip switches on the keypad anymore. We're gonna put them all on the board, so if you need to manipulate any dip switches, they will be on the actual board, so you can see them in a dark basement. You don't have to keep that flap up, put your glasses on, get a flashlight out. The setup of all the equipment's gonna be a little different, but the internal parts are basically the same. We just move them around based on either the heat exchanger that we're using or, you know, how much stuff we have to put in that box. So you're always gonna have an inducer. You'll see our inducer draws air into the cabinet itself. When the cover's on, we're drawing air into the intake, which is protected by a screen. With the cover off, you're just drawing makeup air, which all of our units are approved for makeup air. So if you ever get to a job and the cover is off, anything that's in that cabinet or that room, we're actually drawing into the cabinet itself, into the inducer, and then into our burner assembly. So our gas bar is always going between the gas valve and the venturi here. When you ever do an LP conversion, the gas bar's gotta come off, and your LP conversion orifice is always right there on the dual venturi. And it's just a dip switch setting. So most of the equipment is gonna look very similar. When you go from our water tube heat exchanger to our fire tube heat exchanger, the box is gonna get bigger, and of course, we're moving some of the internal components around inside the unit. So we're selling manifolds as well, a boiler manifold that sits up your primary, secondary piping. On everything but our commercial boiler, this is an accessory. Currently in our NFC combi, we're including it in the package, but we're actually gonna be pulling that out next month and just selling it just as an accessory. Because some guys, if you go to multiple boilers, you don't need these manifolds. And that combi manifold, it has additional cost, and not everybody wants to use it. The boiler manifold's got a flange for your pump, and then in your manual, it'll give you pump specifications for our boiler. If you go to multiple boilers, you just don't purchase this manifold, you pipe it, you know, in sequence. The combi manifolds include our circ pump for the primary, so you don't need that flanged area for the manifold, so that won't be on the combi itself.
Are those flanges, compatible with Taco and Grundfos, or just one or the other?
Grundfos, Taco, Armstrong,
Beautiful.
Welo. So, and we give you a model number for each of those manufacturers.
What the regular pump is?
Yeah, for the pump. So we know that. So I know Welo made a couple different pumps that had a bigger flange on it, but it's basically the same part number with a different letter on it, and they didn't fit, so, pretty slick now. So,
Get your
yeah,
hands dirty.
I'm not gonna run through piping. We're big primary, secondary guys, so, everything we show on our diagrams, is primary, secondary piping.
While you're here,
Mm-hmm.
along this line, what do you, for heating, talking specifically about heating, what do you wanna see water capacity in the system? There should be a minimum, I would guess. In other words, if your flow rate's 10 gallons a minute, you probably wanna see a specified amount. Is it 5 times the flow rate?
Really, I don't care what's going on in the system.
Okay,
We're gonna flow so much through the boiler with our pump, your system could be over or under. If you're doing primary, secondary, it really shouldn't matter.
Depends how much heat you're pulling off of it.
Yeah. We can only get so much through these heat exchangers. We're getting a lot more through the fire tube than the water tube, of course. That's kind of where you see the limitations on our BTU output,
Okay.
especially with the combi unit, because our pump in that combi can only get so much through that heat exchanger. So when we're sizing our combis in the water tube, our 199 unit only gives you 120,000 BTUs. Our 199 fire tube gives you 199 in, 192 out, something, or 187 out, something like that.
so there really isn't a minimum on it. I mean,
No.
if you're 10 gallons a minute and you got 10 gallons in the system, you're good with that.
Right, correct. Because you're mixing water there regardless.
Are you heating air with it, or are you melting ice with it?
So the NHP right now, we can only do, zone pumps with, back to the board, and we're limited to those 3 pumps. Basically, a system pump, boiler pump, and a domestic hot water pump, or we could do, you know, you'd one of the 3, but that's what we're maxed out on this board right now. When we do our board upgrade to this unit, the new electronics board will give you 3 system pumps, 3 system zone valves, plus a boiler pump. And all our domestic hot water pumps, you can program in priority too with a separate temperature. So if any of our boilers give you a domestic hot water outlet for that pump,
Oh, they would do it.
and you can do either 2 temperature system, or you can do 1 temperature with the domestic hot water and give it priority with a different temperature. And usually a place to take an aquastat control from your indirect or the storage tank, whatever you're gonna do. So that's kind of the limitation on the NHP right now, is the control itself is kind of outdated, and the electronics package is original to that unit. But by 3rd quarter, this is the last unit that we're gonna be updating. But I already know what's coming because it's on all our new equipment now. And that's kind of, that was a kind of a stumbling block. If you walk into a job with zone valves, you still gotta leave all those controls there. You know, you can't update those controls from us. Now, we sell little zone valve, zone pump boxes, but not zone valve boxes, so. And another thing nice with Navien is the first for, you know, a lot of stuff that Navien did, you know, we can put up to 16 boilers per se in a system. My commercial boiler, we can do up to 32. We can common vent up to 8 of these in a system. My commercial boilers, we can common vent up to 4. So we're unique in that manner. But your basic piping for doing multiple boilers is gonna be the same as, you know, we're not doing anything special with piping. You do need to buy these temperature sensors whenever you're doing multiple boilers.
You got them, huh?
The NHP does not come with these. You have to buy the return supply sensors. I think they're like $20. All the other boiler equipment gives you 1 sensor in the box. So if you're doing multiple boilers, you're gonna have extra sensors with you, so you don't have to buy any other sensors. And I think they're gonna make that change in the NHP when they come out with the new version.
Those are all strap-on too, right?
Yes, it's just a basic strap-on temperature sensor probe that wires back to the low voltage side of the board. So we are also on all the equipment except for the commercial boiler, we allow 1/2-inch gas line up to 24 equivalent feet, which is again unique to Navien. We're the first to offer that. So even up to my 200,000 BTU boiler, you can do 1/2-inch gas line. 26 equivalent feet. Most jobs will probably be piped with 3/4, I would think, on the boiler equipment, but you know, we do run into some smaller boilers where 1/2 inch is there. You should be able to leave everything that's in line there and just hook up to our boiler. Or if you're gonna repipe. All of our gas valves are gonna look very similar, except for again on the commercial boiler, it's a little different, but not much. Where you can use a single port or dual port digital manometer. The lower adjustment is your static pressure. There's a port above that for our air to gas ratio testing. And your air to gas ratio adjustment is right here under this little cap. There's a little Allen head, take the cap off, little Allen head adjustment underneath of it. We drop this thing into min fire when we do our air to gas ratio testing. I'll show you where we do that. And then you can just hook up your manometer and you can do an adjustment if you have to. That's not something you should have to do, unless maybe you're going to propane, you might wanna just check that. We also have a port on top of the unit where you can put a combustion analyzer. I think I have a picture of that somewhere. Up on top of all the units where the vent port, there's a vent port here. Phillips head screwdriver, just loosens a little flap, you can put your combustion analyzer in there. We give you the specs in the installation manual for either the test on the gas valve or the test at the vent.
For propane too, the specs?
Yes. Yeah, you'll see in the book, model number, specs for natural gas and propane right next to each other. All of our units are field convertible to propane. They all come natural gas in the box. We give you a little conversion kit inside the unit. Usually it's in a little plastic bag on the left side of the unit. There's usually a little spare parts bag on the right side of the unit inside. We basically pop the bar off, there's 4 screws, 2 screws, the orifice plate comes out, the will have the model number and say NG on it. The new orifice plate will have the model number and say LP. You swap those 2 out, put the bar back on, and then it's a simple dip switch. On the NHB, that dip switch is the last one above the keypad. On all the new units, it's gonna be on the side of the keypad or on the board itself, that one dip switch. And that's your LP conversion, you go back and forth as many times as you want. All the new keypads, when you make that LP conversion, when you hit that dip switch, a little LP is gonna come up on the light, on the backlit display to let you know, yes, it's LP. We give you stickers.
Does that stay up all the time?
Stays up all the time.
Cool.
So, just with this old keypad, that's not available. The conversion is real simple. All of our units plug right into the wall. 15 amp breaker, min. We show pictures of GFI because I think we have to, but we're not big fans of GFI, with the commuter board stuff that's in there. But I know some places you have to use them.
How sensitive are the electronics on that machine?
Pretty sensitive. It's a computer. So I carry around a little polarity and ground checker. If I ever go to a job, I check the electricity because I know if it's not, we do flame rectification to ground. So if it's not grounding properly, you're gonna have flame out issues.
How about brownouts is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, if you have power outage, it could mess it up. Lightning strike. They don't draw a lot of amps, but there's a computer board in there.
Yeah.
So you could plug it into a surge protector, but it needs to be a decent one.
Probably better off, like if you're gonna run it off a generator or something like that, maybe even investing in the UPS.
Yeah.
To clean it
We've
up.
seen some issues with generators,
Yeah.
Have you seen any of this equipment on UPSs like Terry said?
I don't know what that is.
Uninterruptible power supply, like they put on computers.
It's a power conditioner.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people just plug it in the wall. That's the problem. They don't have surge protection, they don't have GFI, they're not protected at their box.
Cause I know we lost a transformer and everything in the house went to 300 and 150.
Oh, yeah?
It's like, so yeah, it melted anything electronic, so everything in the house is on UPS now.
If you don't protect it, I mean, like I said, there's a computer board in there.
Yeah.
It's fused, so hopefully the fuses, like there's glass fuses, and hopefully those will pop, but I've seen those not pop, and we have board issues.
He's talking Brown Electric Company by law, if it's 120, it could go as low as 114 or as high as 126.
Yeah, I'm not sure what our range is. I think in our service manual it lists a range.
Lightning strike or something like that.
Well,
I've seen where, one breaker on the box going to some outlets got messed up, and if you run an extension cord to another outlet, it runs fine. So I've tried that before, and you can hear the fan sounds different.
That's all those, whatever laws that, on
the
the
big
back of the
problem
products
is
are
if
very
broken neutral, you can have like 200 volts on one leg and 40 on the other.
You
Instead
might as
of
well be speaking
120 or
Spanish.
120. When that happens, you're
Yeah,
Well, you answered my question.
yeah, so there's some stuff that I check if I think there's an electrical issue, but a lot of times you don't know. There was one at the job, and then until somebody tells you, oh yeah, we had power outage, or we had lightning strike, and we lost this, we lost that, or, So, but it is sensitive to electricity, what it's getting, amps and volts.
We parked an MRI machine on the other side of the wall. Forgot to tell you.
All of our venting on everything, again, with the commercial boiler, is identical. So we don't change any of our venting rules at all. We're all 2-inch up to 60 feet. That's equivalent, max 6. So this little chart is good on everything but the commercial boiler. We basically go to 3-inch on the commercial boiler, and then we fall right in line.
60 feet, that's distance on one.
Either
line.
one. So you got intake,
Both of them.
you got
Either
exhaust,
one, but
either one.
not added together.
Not added together, and they can run anywhere they want. We don't care, as long as, can't run them underground, but.
Up to how many BTU on the 2-inch?
Excuse me,
Up to
60?
how many? 60 feet.
Feet
No, how many
equivalent?
BTU you go up to? on the
All of
2-inch?
our, everything we do 200,000,
Wow.
and then, if you're gonna be doing horizontal penetrations, we always want you to 90 down the intake, straight down the exhaust, 4-inch separation. Vertical, you can do vertical or horizontal. If you do dual vertical, like candy cane the intake. You can tee the exhaust, you can leave that exhaust open. We can take water condensation right back to the unit. It goes through the unit, down the condensate drain. We put a condensate trap in there for you. The key is to keep them separated so we can't draw any of that CO back into the unit. That's pretty common sense stuff for you guys. But
So to be clear, you don't need equal distance on.
no equal distance, we don't
You don't
need
need
equal
to be on the
planes.
same side of the building?
Nope,
or-
we don't care.
Windage doesn't matter.
Nope, you can use concentrics, horizontal or vertical, you can use those flat plate concentrics, every one but the bay vent, we don't like that bay vent, it like freezes up, and I don't know if it's just our problem, or they just, our engineers don't like it. So there's, all the dimensions are in the book, but we're pretty liberal when it comes to venting. So if you come off with 2-inch, you can go to 3-inch, and you go out to 150 feet if you want. Tilt everything back to the unit. So all your exhaust back to the unit. And then I'll talk about multiple units, because it changes a little on multiple units. So we give you a condensate drain or trap with every unit. It's either gonna be inside the box. The fire tube equipment is actually outside the box, so there wasn't enough room inside the box to put that trap. So we're trapping everything for you. We give you a little condensate clean out. It might look like this, it might be a little square one now. And then a 1/2-inch nipple sticking out of the bottom for a gravity run to a drain or a pump or a sink, wherever you wanna dump it. But it has to be an air gap somewhere, either right under the unit or where it's gonna dump into whatever product you're putting it into. It's not a very acidic condensate, but if you're gonna dump it into cast iron or copper, you do gotta neutralize that.
What about septic?
Neutralize it. So it's acidic enough that it'll mess up the bacteria in your septic tank, especially if you're dumping your furnace into the same drain. What do you think about that?
Dump it out on the sides.
So, but it's gonna look very similar. It's just a little cup. You pop that cup, you get about a 1/2 pint of water out of it. If you get more than that, then it's probably plugged up and it's storing water in that heat exchanger somewhere. This is the board on this. I'm not gonna go through a lot of wiring on this because this is changing this year. This is kind of old school for us. It's kind of what it looks like. So you have on this unit, you have air handler, low voltage, and then high voltage, we'll power those pumps for you. But again, on the NHP, it's a boiler pump, a system pump, and then a domestic hot water pump if you need one. That's it. So, these are the dip switches. This is gonna be identical to every unit that we have with this board. So on your original board, your dip switches are gonna tell the unit what it's doing. They're gonna run return or supply water on that system. And then if you're using a thermostat, number 8 dip switch is important because from the factory, we limit exhaust temperature to 149, so we're always condensing. If you have return water temperatures over 150 degrees, your flue temperatures are gonna come up, of course. So you have to put number 8 on, and you gotta change our flue material from Sched 40 PVC to like Sched 80C PVC or Poly Pro, something like that, at least for 18 to 24 inches, and then you can go to Sched 40 PVC if you wanted to. But if you don't hit this switch and you have a 180 degree supply system, you're never gonna get to that temperature because we're limiting the exhaust temperature to 149. And that's gonna keep that boiler at about 140 degree supply temperature, even if you crank it up to 180. And you're gonna see that on all of our equipment. We do that to protect the venting. So people that are doing the install have to manually change that and make sure they change their vent pipe. And then we just have some other gas type and then common vent or individual vent. That's an old picture, so I'm gonna skip by it. This is the old front panel. If you've installed any of the old Combi or that NHP, it kind of looks the same. You gotta dig deep and hit a bunch of buttons to get in the parameters and to get into the settings. It's kind of a pain, but we're changing that this year, so. We can common vent all of our units. These piping diagrams are in the book, but they shouldn't look that unfamiliar. Basically, we're just doing primary, secondary setups. You can do individual primary, secondary, you can do a common primary, secondary, where you're going in the headers and setting the system up. So we have cascade cable that goes between the systems, that sets up your primary unit and all your secondary units. But when you go to multiple units, you do have to purchase this this vent damper kit. I think they're like $30. It comes with the communication cable. This vent damper goes in place of your vent collar, but since it has a damper plate on it, you can't take the condensate back to the unit anymore. It'll just sit on that plate. So you need to put a condensate drain T in and drain your condensate coming, if it gets in the units here, back to this T and then everything out.
Oh, so you
beyond
run
that, back
downhill
the
to
unit.
that and then up?
Yes, and then this line here, you have a little poly hose coming off that, and you do have to trap that, because there's no trap there right now. Again, that's in your manual. That wasn't the case before we got our ASA or CSA approval. Once we got our CSA approval on all our equipment, they mandate that you have to have an exposed damper that has a visible port so you can make sure that it's operating properly. We put a damper in all of our units, but it's not a visible, there's no port on it to look at it. It's actually between our fan and our burner assembly. And that's the same with all the units. So there's just the manifold again. These accessories go with any of our boiler or combi equipment. So we do have pump panels. You can do a 2, 3, 4, or 6, and then you can put them together with that same communication cable. Put up to 4 panels together, so up to 24 pumps. These are your return supply sensors. We sell neutralizer equipment. You know, if you want to buy
What's in that neutralizer, just limestone?
It's limestone.
How often you gotta change it?
5 years, I think, is what they tell me, but it's probably gonna depend on how many systems you got in.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So. And then we do Navien. So some of you guys are asking about Wi-Fi. This Navien, again, goes with any of the equipment. You get a lot more information on Navien with our water heaters than per se our boiler. So we don't give you all the boiler controls with Navien because the homeowner is downloading an app, and we don't want them changing all these settings that you spent time setting up. So basically, they're gonna get, it's gonna be an on-off control. It gives you error code information if you get an error code. It gives you some fuel information, that kind of stuff.
Set up your vendor info, so who to call.
Yeah, but if you're on a job, like we do a lot of commercial work, so if you're doing university work, that kind of stuff, they can do Navien on a whole bank and multiple systems in the building, and whoever's running around can have that app, and if they get an error code, they know what unit has an error code, so they can go fix it, which is kind of nice. That's kind of the NHP boiler. Any questions on it at all? The NFB we came out with last year, or I guess 2019, NFB, Navien fire tube boiler. It says our fire tube heat exchanger in it. Looks basically the same. It has the new keypad on it. This keypad is gonna be in all of our new boiler equipment and on the combis, except for the commercial boiler, which is gonna have that big touchscreen on it. Some of this stuff is gonna change this year, but again, you saw this page. We're taking the turn down ratio on this boiler up to 15:1 this year. We're extending out the venting to 65 feet on 2-inch. The cascade and communication are the same. So this is our fire tube heat exchanger. Everybody's fire tube heat exchanger kind of looks the same if you're just looking at it from the outside. They did make a lot of changes. I mean, I sold for NTI and I've seen triangles. Ours is a lockdown 4-bolt assembly on top, and it swivels. It's like a turn lock, and then you can tighten down those bolts. The inner, I don't know how many pictures I have, but all of our inner veins are nippled on the outside, so as water's going through there, it agitates and helps keep that heat exchanger clean.
Turbulent, increase
Yep.
efficiency.
Yep. Our flame rods are right here on top. This is very easy to access if you have to access it. Our burner assembly's on the bottom. They're telling me if you got clean, if you have a clean system going to this, you're probably never gonna have to take that top of that apart, and clean it, but I don't know if I necessarily buy that, but, that's what they're telling us. So it's an insulated heat exchanger, it's all stainless steel. We make that product ourselves. We make all the water tube heat exchangers ourselves, so it is all our product. So this is kind of an inner look, at the heat exchanger. You can see the top. We use a burner mesh on all of our product. So when that thing fires, it fires across the mesh. Inside the unit, you'll see our electronics package looks a little different than the NHP package. So this is what the NHP will be getting later this year. And we'll also be getting this keypad. And all of our combi equipment will have this same electronics board and the same keypad, so installation will be similar across the whole spectrum of the boiler equipment. You take the cover off, this is what you expose. You can see the fan's in a little different place, but we still draw air in. That heat exchanger is pretty big. In our 175, it holds about 7 gallons of water. In our 200, it's just under 10 gallons of water. So there's more weight to this unit, it's a little bigger unit. You can see your gas valve is kind of hitting you right in the face here, but it has the same ports as the NHP. Your orifice change out for LP is right here. This unit has piping that goes to the top. This is just for a air eliminator that we supply in the box, and or you can tee off a relief valve there as well if you want on top of the unit. So that's to help get all the air out of that heat exchangers are doing your fill. You can actually just leave that thing open as you're filling the boiler and water starts coming out the top, you know that fire tube heat exchanger is full. I just talked about all that stuff. These units, and this is what the NHP is going to be getting, is a transformer in that, so we can provide power to multiple pumps or zone valves and thermostats. So the NFP is just these two sizes. The NHP, you got a 55 and 80, a 110 and a 150. On the NFB, you got a 175 and a 200. This year, we're gonna have an NFB 175 or 200H. We're putting a little H after that. That's gonna be the upgrade to this unit. And we're gonna increase the turn down ratio to, I believe it's 15 to 1 on these units. So just basic specs, this isn't all in your literature. If you have any questions on this, I can answer. So the box is a little bigger, but the top and the bottom basically look the same. You got 1¼ inch connections instead of 1 inch for your returning your supply. It's a 3/4 gas inlet, but we still allow you to do 1/2 inch gas line up to 24 equivalent feet. The condensate on any of our fire tube product is going to be exposed, but it comes in the box. You basically push it up in to that, and it's got that little clip that goes through it. Then you pipe off that exposed condensate. So we check the boxes and all the approvals.
What are the vent lengths on the NFB?
Excuse me?
The vent lengths?
It's the same as the NHB right now. When the H model comes out in the next, I think 30 to 60 days, we're gonna extend the 2 inch out to 65 feet. The 3 inch will still be 150 feet. So it'll go from 60 basically to 65 feet on 2 inch. So here's the warranty. The warranty is gonna look the same, except this is what I talked about. On the residential heat exchange, we start dropping that warranty down after 12 years. So our labor warranty, it's from the date of install. You do have to be on the phone with Navien to get labor reimbursement. They're kind of set rates, but we do pay you something. If they ever send a warranty part out to you, why it's under that 1-year warranty, there'll be a piece of paper inside with a little code on it, and that's what you use to get your labor reimbursement. So they'll either send the paperwork with you, it's all recorded when you're talking to tech, so if you lose that paper, you can call them back with your serial number and they'll give you that code. You can call in and get that labor reimbursement whenever, there's not a time frame for you to get that. So, this is what comes in this box. So you're getting your outdoor sensor with it, your relief valve, you're getting a small little air eliminator, condensate trap, you're getting a little fitting to mount your air eliminator up on top. You know, or you can put a T up there, and you can put the relief valve up there as well if you want, and your air eliminator, and or an external low water cutoff if you want to put that up there as well, if you have to. There's an internal low water cutoff.
Do they use pressure or conductivity?
So they use pressure. So I think 6 pounds, it airs out. And 6 pounds, the combi will try to autofill itself, but the boilers relies on your external autofill valve. And temperature wise, I think this, so if you're using the outdoor sensor, again, 194 degrees. So same piping diagrams, nothing crazy here. You know, they look the same as the NHP, we're not doing anything different here. So again, if you're doing domestic hot water, you can pour it in, we can power that pump, you can run your tank mounted aquastat back, you can give that tank priority and temperature difference if you want. You can run those pumps at the same time, at the same temperature, or you give it a higher temperature and give it priority if you want. So, the manifold is a little different on our NFB than it is the NHB. It's reversed because of the flow, because we had to change it up a little because of the size of that fire tube heat exchanger. Navien always pulls water back into the boilers, so it looks the same kind of manifold, just the pump's on the other side. And again, your pump dimensions are in the manifold, or in the manual itself. This is flanged. You know, these aren't inexpensive, but they give you everything you need. You know, they're valved, they're ported. You can put a relief valve there, expansion tank. It gives you your nipples for your domestic hot water. It unions right up to the bottom of the unit, and it's flanged, you know, for the pumps that we recommend. So I think they're pretty nice. They clean up the piping for you. If you're going on a retrofit, you need the boiler, you need the manifold, you can pipe the old system right into it, away you go. We talked about this gas pressure. This is the LP conversion kit again, it's the same. This dip switch, because we've gone to an upgraded keypad, the LP conversion dip switch is now on the board, and that's what you're gonna see moving forward on all the equipment. It's visible, you know where it is. You don't need a magnifying glass to find it. So the venting, this is an old chart, because we're gonna upgrade it next month, where we're gonna take the 2-inch out to 65 feet. All the other rules are the same. So same venting pictures, again, it's all gonna look pretty familiar. This is the condensate trap that comes in the box, so it's a little goofy little thing, but it's easy to use, it's easy to service if you need to, and it hangs right off the bottom of the unit. Again, plug it into the wall. So this is the new electronics board. So it was standard with the NFB, but we're putting it in all the new equipment. It's gonna be the same board in all the equipment moving forward. You have a high voltage side and a low voltage side for this board. So you have your air handler connections, then we have pump connections here. They're all fused. On the other side, you have sensor, thermostat connections, and then other zone valve connections all the way to the right there. So this unit itself will do up to 3 zones outside of your boiler pump. So it'll take care of the boiler pump and then 3 zones of heating, either zone pumps or zone valves. You can do an air handler. You can do domestic hot water again and give it priority temperature, or you can use that domestic hot water port for a second temperature zone if you really want to. So if you have a radiant floor zone and maybe baseboard zone or something, you could do two different temperatures and give one priority over another if you wanted to, if you get a call there. So, there's just a breakdown. Again, this is in your manual. You'll see zone 1, thermostat 1, they kind of line up. We're also putting a pump grounding strip on this board, which we didn't have in the NHB. So if you wanted to ground out your boiler pump and your system pump, you had to wire to the back of the unit, which is a real pain, because you can't get back there. You know, you got a long screwdriver, you got wire tie, or you can cut a ground wire up front and try to do it that way. But the pump grounding strip is nice. It's something we had asked for and they put it in, so. So you will see on the zone valves that we max out at 3/4 of an amp there. So depending on the zone valves you're using, if you only have one zone valve and it's more than that, that's a cumulative. When you can add them all together. But that's kind of a limitation on the zone valve, right there.
On all of them added together or each?
So it would be,
2 1/4.
yeah. And then your other dip switch is basically identical to the NHB. You have your except you have LP if you're using a thermostat or not, and your exhaust limiter, your number 8 dip switch again if you're going to be over 150 degree return water temperature. So, the keypad again. This was a big upgrade when they came out with the fire tube equipment. They upgraded the keypad, and this is going to be on all of our boiler equipment moving forward. It's a dial. You have a power button, a mode menu button, and then a return button. This dial you can twist through and that pushes in and out to change your setting. You dial to make your change, you push it back in to lock in. So it's very simple. The whole keypad lights up. This is your home screen. So it's going to tell you outdoor temperature, pressure, if you have domestic hot water, what temperature the probe is reading, your supply return set point temperature, how many zones you're powering, 1, 2, or 3, and then you have icons on top. So you got a home icon if it's expired, you got a wrench if it's broke, your outdoor reset, if this is the main unit, and if you have priority temperature for domestic hot water setup. So you can look at the home screen and kind of see how everything is set. What's running, how it's running, and if this was an LP, you would see a little LP icon up there.
Where is
as
it?
well.
Upper left?
I think it takes the place of one of those.
So on that, if you have several cascaded together, are you gonna be able to pretty much see what everything's doing through one?
So the limitation on this keypad is it's not gonna give you detailed information on the cascade.
Okay.
It's just gonna tell you that this was your primary unit.
But each one will have its
Each
own-
one of them will tell you what's going on. In the
Okay.
commercial boiler, and I'll show you a couple pictures, that commercial boiler on the main unit will show you exactly what's going on with the cascade, how many units, what temperatures, if they're set up, they're prime or not, who's next to fire. I mean, it gives you all that detailed information. It's got a bigger screen, we can put more on it. So, this is just a blow up of what you're seeing there. What each of the settings mean. All your icons, I just kind of went through all this, what the buttons do, what the dial does. When you go and hit the menu button, it's gonna put you into the main menu. These are your setup options. You can go in and all the updated equipment is gonna have a quick start menu when you turn this on the first time, and I'll show you a picture of it. When we do the upgrade to this unit in a couple of months, it's gonna have that new control in it. And it's gonna force you to go through and set all the basic boiler settings up front. So you can either run it off the default that pops up, or you can make an adjustment to that right on your quick start menu. But then you can always go back in. Status information tells you exactly what's going on with the boiler. It's like a snapshot as it's running. So it'll tell you any information on any working component in the boiler, what it's running at. It'll give you voltage, speed on the fan, gas valve, flame rods, temperature, water in, water out, pretty much anything you need to know. Your spacing operation, you can go in there, you can make any changes to your spacing. All your defaults will be in there. The book will tell you your defaults, or you can go in and make adjustments to your defaults there. Same with domestic hot water. You can go in, you can either run it on default, or you can do a set point and give it priority. We also have an advanced installer menu. If you hold down those two side buttons there, return and menu, it puts you in our advanced menu. And that allows you to go in and change any parameter that we have available to you in the system. You can set up your cascade mode there. You could set up, if you want to put boost control on there, would change the default timer. All your defaults to any possible coding that we have, you can go in and change that right there. Not that you ever need to do that, but that's where we would go in and make adjustments to it if we had to. And sometimes you want to tweak our default, or you want to run both pumps at the same time, or whatever. You can go in and that's where you make your adjustments. So it's very simple to get to. You can see it. It's all in English. You can dial through it. You don't even need a book to do it. And that's basically all 8, can't really see that bottom one, all 8 settings. So it gives you status, checks what you have. We can go in and test all the equipment. We can also force air purge mode again to make sure all the air is out of that system if you think you got air gathered in that heat exchanger.
What does that air purge mode do?
So if anybody's put in any of the original combis, when you first turn that thing on, it'll turn itself on once you put power to it. And it basically goes into an auto air purge mode, and it's rolling the pump and trying to get the air out of the heat exchanger. And it'll run for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, usually. But basically it's trying to clear itself. So on the combi, since the combi's got a built-in autofill valve, it's actually autofilling the system and purging the air out on its own. So again, nothing special here. We can put up to 16 boilers together. We can common vent up to 8 of these in a system. All the drawings look the same. These boilers do come with one temperature sensor, so you don't need to buy these. You can just use one out of the other box. Take these back to the main unit. You put them on your return supply main system piping, and then you can run the boiler off those temperatures instead of the boilers looking at the boiler temperature. When you're doing multiple boilers, they all want to look back and see what's going on in the system. So regardless of which one is running, it knows what the system is doing. When we have a bank, we always fire half the bank and then just figure out where to go from there, depending on if we're managing temperature or not. And then they'll ramp up and down, turn themselves on and off at about an 80 percentile.
Oh, in parallel though?
Yep, and then they equalize runtime. So the main unit, that's just to do setup. After that,
That's what
it doesn't really matter. It's a random sequence of events that are turning things on and off and to equalize runtime across the bank.
My mom's temperature sensors with the sensor.
So, and again, you'll see where vent damper kick, you have to put that little condensate T in and drain everything back to that condensate T at that point. So when you're doing multiple units, we do upsize the manifold for the intake and the vent. And this chart's in your book. And then all the same rules apply after that. So you got 2 units, 60 equivalent feet using 3-inch pipe. They come off with 2-inch. We recommend, and I don't know if I got a good picture of this. This is an okay picture. Usually we want to come off on the vent and put an elbow back into your manifold pipe. That way any condensate that collects in that manifold pipe has a pathway to your condensate T. If you tee into the bottom of that manifold pipe, any condensate could actually drip down onto that flapper assembly. So elbow up and then back into your condensate T. I might have a better picture of it.
Sort of like a drop header.
Yeah, so that way you have a channel for condensate to build up and run to a condensate T. There's no way.
Oh, you come up and into it.
Come up and elbow into your manifold pipe.
So it's off the side instead of the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. We learned that the hard way. So the cascade cable, unlike the water heaters, plugs into the board with all the new keypads instead of the side of the keypad. The NHB still plugs into the side of the keypad, not the board. When we get the new control on that one, it'll plug into the board itself. So that'll be a little different when you do your job, plug in the side of the keypad. So So, a bank of accessories, all the accessories are basically the same. So, we do sell this Navien. If you buy the fire tube combi, this comes in a box. I sell one from Fernox too. I sell one from Zomet too. I mean, it's a magnetic filter, magnetic dirt filter. You can isolate it, pull the magnet up, dump the filter, helps get all the magnetite out of the system if you're doing boilers. Any replacement boiler system that has mixed metal in it, I would put one of these things on. It's guaranteed to save the life of your pumps and your boilers. And I think you'd be blown away at the amount of stuff it traps.
What's the physical size of that?
This thing's about this big. I sell commercial ones that are, this big off the floor. So, just depends on your system and the piping. We use these little ones on bigger systems and just tee it off the return pipe. So, we might not catch everything on the first run, but over time.
So it's a parallel loop, so you can valve it, clean it without even touching the system.
Exactly, you don't have to turn anything off. Just isolate it, dump it, away you go. So, look, Navien again. So there you go. Same stuff, nothing crazy here. We do have racks if you wanna set these things up. Racks they all go together, base rack, add-on rack. You can go back to back on these racks, so. Any questions on that NFB? So this is our commercial boiler. We do two sizes, 301 and a 399. Again, this is only boiler water, heating boiler. Later this year, I hate to say third quarter because it'll probably be fourth quarter. We're gonna have one or two sizes with domestic hot water approval on them. So we're just not paying for NSF on these things right now. Basically, is what it's doing. It's gonna look identical, probably run identical. It's just gonna have the NSF. It's gonna have the right NSF to check to get that approval. So you will see this is a lot bigger unit. It's got a nice little keypad on it. It's got ports on the top. This one we can hook up to the bottom or the top. All our other equipment hooks up to the bottom. And it's got 3-inch intake and vent adapters on top as well. So it's a little different. Go ahead, sorry.
Is that plugged or valved off inside, or was it?
You get two caps basically. You decide how you want to run stuff. But you can run supply in and return out. One top, one bottom, both top. However you want to do it. Then just cap off the two ports you're not using. So you'll see 15:1 turn down ratio, 3 or 4 inch PVC pipe, up to 160 PSI, so multi-floor installation for commercial, fuel convertible, again, fire tube.
ASME, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah, I think I have your stuff here. So, same fire tube, it's just a little bigger. Again, we make that heat exchanger there. This is the inside, looks very similar to the regular NFB, it's just a bigger animal. The keypad's a little different. The condensated train again goes outside, got a little bigger ignition transformer, your intake and exhaust, again a 3-inch. So, gas valve again, similar gas valve right in front. The exhaust blower's a little beefier. But again, you can see this is all accessible. If you need to get into that burner chamber, you can do it without taking a bunch of stuff apart. Here's your basic ratings. They're both 15:1. It is kind of heavy, Yeah. So you got 1.25 inch, 1.5 connections on the bottom. This is 3/4 inch gas minimum, so you can't run 1/2 inch gas to this unit. So there's all your approvals. There's your warranty, basically the same. So this is what comes in the box itself. So we give you an air vent, we give you a pressure relief valve. Here's your accessories. Oh, sorry, this is what's included in the box also. So here's your sensor. You get this air vent adapter which plugs into the top. So it gives you a port for a relief valve, a port for a little air eliminator, and it's also, I'll show you a picture, plugged on one side that where you could put an external low water cutoff if you want, and wire that back for a board.
Oh, it's probably 1 inch.
It's probably a good guess.
Probably most really kind of.
Double
Are they-
nipple says 3/4.
It's that little torpedo low water, black low water cutoff, I think it's maybe 1 inch or two. And then outdoor sensor, of course.
The guard dog.
So, we do not sell manifolds with this boiler. We do have, pumping specifications inside the manual for you, to show you head pressure and flow rate of the pump that we recommend for this system. Again, we're drawing, water back into this boiler. So, out of the top, so you can port bottom, top, if you want, either side. It's the only piece of equipment we have where we have top and bottom connections. You can use one or the other.
Well, you could use the other bottom ones for drains if you're doing it all the
Yeah.
time. That's nice.
So, a lot of stuff is gonna look the same as the regular NFB deal that we do, so, multiple units, we can common vent up to 4 of the commercial boilers in the system, so we can get up to 1.2 million common vented, but we can cascade up to 32 of these things in the system. And all you need is that communication cable. So you're gonna get a vent damper kit that's gonna come with the cable, it's like $30 extra per unit, there's no controls, other controls you have to buy, everything's built into our standard control. I just threw some stuff in here. So here's the pump size, and you'll see this chart in all of our boiler equipment. It'll show you based on temperature rise, and then by equipment, what we recommend for the boiler itself. This is the same as all our other equipment. All of our equipment on natural gas falls between 3.5 and 10.5. Same on LP. We use the 3-inch water column drop chart, and we allow up to 3 inches of drop before we want to start looking at piping issues. So you can have this system set up where you're only getting 3.5 inches of water column on natural gas, and we'll allow up to a 3-inch drop, and this thing will run full BTUs. So, gas valve, your LP changeout. LP changeout's a little different on this one because you have 2 orifice plates instead of 1. But that's the only difference. They only go in one way. We give you extra screws, extra gaskets in the little packet in case you lose one or if you cut one up. But it should only take you a couple minutes to do. So that's what it looks like. They come in the box. The computer board looks the same, it's just a little different, but your LP conversion again is number 1 on the second bank. The venting on this is gonna look similar, but it's 3 and 4 inch instead of 2 and 3 inch. All the other rules apply, they're identical. So in all the same venting pictures, it's approved for room makeup air. That's the condensate trap. So this board is a little different than the old board, or the other boards. This only does zone pumps right now, all right, and we cannot power those pumps from our board. Because we don't know what size system pumps you're gonna be using, or what size system pumps are out there. We can only activate those pumps on and off.
So you got a digital output port, that's.
Or you can use a panel, if you wanna use a panel and wire it back. So, this is one thing that really tripped a lot of people up when we came up with the commercial boiler, because they thought we were powering off these ports like we do all of our other equipment. You gotta provide power, and we're basically breaking that power on our board. So, 3 thermostats, I mean, everything else is kind of the same. That's kind of the big thing that trips you up. Again, you can use domestic hot water, you give a priority. So the control was a big upgrade for us. You get a lot of information on the home screen. It is a touchpad control, so it's like an iPad on the front of the boiler, but it also has a dial through and a push button where you can go in, you can dive deep into settings and use that if you want as well. to do changes. But basically, all your control buttons are on the bottom of the system. So when you get into settings, this is your heating primary screen. It allows you to go in and change everything you could possibly want to change in there. It's going to show you how many pumps you got hooked up to the system. You can change how those pumps fire, supply temperature. You can change the percentage that this, all of our boiler equipment fires at. There's your domestic hot water. You can give the domestic hot water a different temperature and priority. Or you can use that setup as, again, a second temperature if you want to run 2 temperatures off the boiler. Not use the domestic hot water. So, all of our units store up to 12 error codes in the system. So, the keypads do different things when errors pops up, but for the most part, the error's gonna pop up. It's gonna give you an error code, and then you just hit the button to reset that code out, and it'll store it, and it'll try to refire the system. There's a couple gas codes and a couple venting codes that are hard lockouts that won't restart the system unless you power it down and power it back up, then it'll lock it and it'll try to go into fire at that point. The NFB and the combi control flashes red, and it tells you that error code. It tells you what it thinks the problem is. It tells you the date and the time of when that error occurred, how much time has lapsed since that. This one will do it too when you hit the reset button, or you can go into error history and it'll give you all that information as well. So, again, it's pretty easy to see. Pictures all look very familiar. Cascade cable plugs into the board. Here's what we were talking about. If you got multiple units, it's going to show you how many units you have in the system, what each unit is doing. Once you have your sensors out in the field, it's going to tell you what the boiler water is doing on its primary and what the secondary system temperatures are for as many boilers as you have in the system. And you can go in and change settings right from that screen on all that equipment. Right there, you got a main button and a cascade button. You can change how the system's running. I think there's way too much here, but any information you could possibly want is stored here. You can find it very simple. Again, you don't need our manuals to program the boiler. You could just run this thing on. You can set supply temperature and let it run off defaults. If something's not working properly, you go back in and change some of our default settings if you need to. Or you can set it up based on how you like to run stuff.
Is there any way you can look at this remotely, like if you're in one facility?
This does have control options that none of our other equipment has. I think it's like BAT and excuse me, there's 2 of them. Modbus and LineWorks. So you can go in if you're doing a business control system. You can plug it in. You can see it remotely there. Navien is not going to show you a lot of this stuff. It's just not developed enough for that yet. So our Navien has been out for a number of years. It's pretty rudimentary. Works really good with the water heater. It gives the homeowner what they want. But when you're talking about commercial information and you don't make those adjustments, they just don't want to put a lot of that stuff out there because it's the same app that the homeowner uses, and you know it's going to get messed up. Somebody's going to go and hit the button, and you're going to get a phone call saying, "Oh, your system sucks." You suck. So again, very similar. Here you can see where we're keying into the horizontal part of that manifold pipe that allows your drainage to go down to that T, your condensate T, and not build up. So it's very similar.
It's all uphill from here.
Here's where this was unique to Navien, not unique to Navien, but it was the first time we allowed management software to be incorporated with our programming. So we do a lot of commercial work with these.
Well, connects to back that too.
Yeah, both systems, yeah. I guess there's actually 3. So, Navien, but I'll tell you, don't get real excited about Navien on the boiler side. It's okay on combi, but it's a lot better on the water heater. So, same accessory, so. Any questions? I don't know, I'm time-wise, what am I?
I don't know, what time is it?
7.
You're right on the money.
So, combi stuff, do you wanna cover some combi stuff at all, or? A little bit. Yeah, I can bounce through what, if you wanna talk combi, so, one thing I do like to talk about, if you're doing our combi unit, we are far and away the most advanced combi on the market now. We held this thing back 6 months because we saw some people were coming out with some newer equipment. Everybody's kind of caught up to what we were doing back in 2012. This thing does so much more than anybody else can do. It was a huge step forward on NCB. So our NFC combi, we basically took all the advancements we came out last year with our fire tube combi and put them in our NCB combi. So we're selling 5 different BTU sizes of this unit, and the second number tells you your input BTUs on the heating side. You're gonna get full BTUs on the domestic hot water side, but you're gonna get, limited BTUs on the heating side, because we're using our water tube heat exchanger here, and we're giving you a primary pump. We can only get so much water through that system and so much heat out of that on the heating side. So when this thing is in heating mode, basically, it's always a boiler, and then we put this little flat plate heat exchanger in there to provide your boiler heat from your domestic heat. So your boiler path, we're using the whole system, sending it out to the field. Again, we have a manifold piped primary, secondary. When we go to domestic on this, somebody turns on a faucet, this 3-way valve rotates, and now we're sending water to that flat plate. So you got domestic water coming in through the flat plate and out, very quick path. There's just a flow sensor and some other stuff in there. And we're pumping water through the boiler side. So you will see higher temperatures on your boiler.
The pump's built in. Yeah.
Yes, it's a built-in pump. So you'll see higher temperatures coming out of the boiler when you're in domestic mode, because we have to heat that flat plate heat exchanger and get your domestic up to temp.
That's kind of like what I'm doing now.
Pretty simple operation, not a whole lot of moving parts. We've been doing it the same way since we came out with, I think, combi in 2010 or 11. This H model is the upgrade model. So basically, we put the new keypad on it. We put this new vent installation detector, and that's going to be on all of our new equipment. So if you don't slide your vent pipe all the way down and seat it properly, the unit will not fire. So we have people trying to use street elbows and they don't go down far enough, or just getting the pipe through the top gasket, not to the bottom gasket. So this pipe has to go down a solid 3 inches, seal on the burner assembly gasket.
There's a switch down there?
Yes, safety switch in there now. If you don't get all the way down, CO can leach out over that gasket
Right.
and into the unit itself. And that's bad. So we pushed the 2-inch venting out to 65 feet. But the big deal again, and was the number one, we added a larger size, and we extended the BTUs out on this about 10,000 per unit. So the old unit, the 240, would only go to 120. Now it goes to 130, and we've added a 150,000 BTU model in the NCB.
What do you see the temperature rise at on the domestic?
So they try to keep this at a, so I think, it's modulated, so our charts go from like 35 to 90.
Okay. So the
So
colder,
domestic-
colder the inlet is, the hotter it's gonna fire.
Yeah, but
So 55 in, you can hit 145.
Yeah,
Full
well,
fire.
max domestic temp is 140 on these units, but you can get up to 194 on the heating side.
Okay.
Because the NCB is really a residential model. The NFC combi, we do residential or commercial, so it's set up a little different.
Is there still gonna be the buffer tank option on these?
No, that's only in the water heater.
Oh, okay.
So the combi on the bottom here, you have, it's changing up a little bit. You got return and supply, hot and cold. You have a boiler inlet here, condensate outlet, and then you got gas in. So there's a lot of pipes on the bottom of this thing. On top, it's the same as everything else. It's 2-inch in and out. So, inside the box looks very familiar. This is what the big upgrade in the NCB was. Keypad and electronics, because the old NCB, you couldn't wire anything back to that board. You had to have third-party controls to do anything. This unit, we're allowing up to 3 zones of pumps, 3 zones of valves, thermostats. We're also putting on this board,
What's the dishwasher limit for restaurants?
I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit here.
Well, the low temp stuff is 140.
He's got his own heater.
Yeah, well.
I'm gonna have to come back to it some, wait,
One
if
heater
I
is
have
what they
myself.
want for sterile.
So we also upgraded this domestic hot water assembly. This is in our NFC combi. But the old combi, we just had a little orifice in it to restrict flow so we could never give you cold water. It just wouldn't let itself overperform. We've added a water adjustment valve, a mixing valve, and here's the 3-way valve. And here's your flat plate heat exchanger, your pump. We've moved all this. It's the same piece that we put in the NFC combi. And now it gives us full control over the domestic output temperature, just like our tankless water heater. All those working components are right in your face. So if one of those goes bad, you're not cutting your hands up trying to get to the back of the unit to fix something. That's what it looks like blown up. So here's your warranty. Combi's a little different, 1051. So all the piping schematics are gonna be the same. Just remember that we give you a primary loop pump on this unit, on our combi. So our manifold, you'll see, doesn't have any flange in there for a pump. The pump's already in there. So when you're wiring stuff back, you're only wiring back system information, system pump, system zone valves, that kind of stuff. That's what our manifold looks like. We make that manifold stainless steel. It unions right up to the bottom of the unit. Relief valve, it's got a port on top again for a relief valve. You can leave that relief valve off as you're filling the boiler up, and once water starts dumping out of the top, you're full and you can put that on. So if you buy our manifold, it comes with that T-bar that I've shown you in a number of pictures, where you can tee in an air vent, the relief valve. It's also got an outside port for a low water cutoff, which you see on the end there. So our unit has a built-in, all the combis come with a built-in autofill valve as well. So if you're on a job and there's an autofill valve, you just open this all the way up so we see street pressure, and then you can set pressure internally to the system wherever you want. Default's 12 pounds. It is not mandatory that you pipe into our boiler inlet, but I think it's added protection to the system so we can see, number one, what's our inlet pressure. If we got a leak in the system, it'll auto-fill that system. But if you do have a leak and it auto-fills more than 5 times, it shuts the system down to protect it and throws an error code. So you go find your leak instead of just continually auto-fill.
Does it got a flow? How does it know it's flowing?
So there is a pressure sensor somewhere. Not sure where they put it on this new unit.
So it's basically cycling the pressure.
Yes, at 6
So-
pounds, it'll autofill. So if you drop below 6 pounds, it'll autofill. When you turn this unit on the first time, it goes to your quick start menu, and then when you start it up, it goes to an autofill purge mode, or you can force auto purge. The domestic setup's the same. Another thing that we added to this unit, a lot of people like to do domestic hot water recirculation. With the old combi, you had to buy a bunch of controls, and wire it in. This, we're giving you power for your pump, so you can now pump in an external pump. We'll power that pump, and we're including recirc programming in this board, just like our tankless water heater that comes with recirc operation. You don't need any third-party controls. So what Navient's trying to do is eliminate as many third-party vendors from trying to run their equipment as possible and run it on our own. So that's, it's a substantial upgrade. It's what people have been asking for since we came out with combi.
What controls that recirc pump? Is it doing it off line temp or timer
So
or?
yeah, so there's a number of different options. We can do where we're doing internal temperature sensing. So we're looking at incoming temp and set point, and when it drops from that incoming temp drops to below, I think 18 degrees of set point, it'll fire the unit. And then when it sees a 9-degree differential coming back, it shuts down. And it'll do that on a 24-hour cycle, or you can program in a 1 day, a 3 day, or a 7-day cycle. You could also, if you want, hook an external aquastat somewhere out and wire that back, and you can control it off a line temperature on the field somewhere if you want.
So you can schedule it too, to say like morning hours before everybody wakes up. or-
Exactly. If somebody doesn't want to run it all day, if the pump's not going to run all day, it's just going to
It's gonna
in a
cycle on
sense,
tap
okay.
anyways, but if you just don't even want it to run
Yes.
certain hours.
So you
period.
could do it on half-hour increments throughout the day.
When you're wiring back to the boiler and a recirc pump, is it taking completely away from the heat when it goes into recirc?
So yes, and that's a key point because we always prioritize the domestic hot water in combi. So if this pump was running all the time, you'd never heat your house. The
Oh,
boiler-
because it locks that 3-way valve.
Yeah, it rolls that 3-way valve and it goes into domestic mode. So as long as somebody's running a faucet or this pump's running, the heating system is off. When you close the faucet,
In my garage can be an issue.
that valve rolls back and it goes into heating mode. So we consider, maybe 10 to 12 minute max runtime for hot water usually. If you're taking a shower, you're filling a hot tub or something. Whirlpool. And kicking back into.
Is that 12 minutes adjustable?
Olympic,
You've got a garden
No.
tub or something?
You can run it as long as you want,
Right, right.
right?
But you're
not
taking
gonna
away
heat.
from your heat.
Right. But your house isn't gonna, be 1 minute
Right, right.
80 degrees and the next minute 40 degrees, Unless your daughter's in the shower for a half hour.
do your homework.
LP conversion's the same dip switches, same venting, we're out to 65 feet on 2-inch. There's their vent installation detector again. Another key thing on this vent installation detector, we talked about all this wiring stuff already. That vent installation detector, when you go to multiple units, the one that comes in the kit does not have that vent installation detector in it. But it comes with a little jumper wire. So where that Molex connector is for that VID, you just unplug it and plug the jumper in, and we're basically bypassing it at that point
On just the lead one?
on all of them.
Because you got the dampers in there, right?
Correct.
Right.
So here's the keypad. We already talked about everything on here. This is the startup wizard that's going to be on all the equipment. Again, on the combi or on the boilers, it forces you to go in and check all your settings to make sure you set it up properly. On the combi, it's going to go in and ask you recirc questions. Are you doing domestic recirc? How do you want to run it? So regardless of who you send out, for the most part, they should be able to do a quick start programming, get the system up and running. If something's not running right, you can go back and do your adjustments to the system. So a little different error code display. It's kind of nice. It tells you kind of what's going on with the system, how long it's been going on. A lot of times a homeowner will unplug these things, unplug them back in to get them to work, and you'll know about it. But it's going to store the error codes in there. Now, with these combis, we can also cascade and common vent multiple water heaters into the system. So a lot of times we'll do these big homes where maybe they're just doing radiant floor in the basement. So the combi's great for that job. It's going to give you enough radiant floor heat, but they might have 5-6 bathrooms in the house. And the combi's just not big enough on the domestic side to take care of all those bathrooms. So we can cascade in tankless water heaters. We use the same damper kit with the communication cable. We always set the combi up as the main unit, and then we program in the water heaters. When we do that, the combi becomes your primary boiler, and the water heater, regardless of how many you put in, become your primary water heaters. When those water heaters can no longer keep up with the domestic demand, they send a little signal over to the combi rolls that valve and backs them up on the domestic side.
But other than that, it just takes lead as heat.
That's correct. That's all it's doing is heat. Again, exclusive to Navien. It's kind of a sweet setup. You're piping everything in. It's not hard to pipe in. You're basically adding that combi in to your manifold on your hot and your cold. If you're going to do domestic recirc on this kind of system, we're gonna pull that domestic recirc back to the water heaters at that point and not back to the combi. Not that you couldn't, but why would you? You know, you want that combi to be your primary boiler until it has to back up on the domestic side. So, same venting picture, nothing different there. And then the NFC combi, it's basically everything I just talked about with the fire tube in there. So you've seen all these pictures before. The inside just looks a little different than the NFB boiler because it's a combi. And it's got the same board, same keypad, all the same installation rules apply that we just talked about. So they're trying to make it simple. The big difference in this combi is it's larger, 175 and 200. So we got combi from 80 to 150, and then we've added a 175 and a 200. Plus we're giving you commercial application, commercial warranty with the NFC combi. The combi is an individual application. You cannot put two combis together on a job. You can't cascade them, they won't communicate, but you can put a combi with multiple water heaters on a job. Not to say that you smart guys couldn't get it to work, but
How's the
we'd
domestic
rather
out?
not, you not do it.
How's the domestic output on the commercial?
So the domestic, there's some charts and they're on all the literature.
Okay.
We lose a little on the domestic side as compared to our tankless water heater. The tankless water heater in our market at 120 will give you about 5.6 GPM. The best the combi is gonna do, that fire tube will give you about 5.4. That the NCB combi will give you about 4.8. So we sacrifice going through that flat plate heat exchanger on the water tube combi. The fire tube, because it's that big open vessel.
Is
we
it the
can get more
primary
out of it.
advantage of the fire tube over the water tube is the fouling?
It's, yeah, cause it's that big, just a bucket, holding water, you got low head pressure, we can move a lot of water through that system, so we get more BTUs out, and we can keep that box small. The whole point is you can lift that thing up and hang it on a wall. We're trying to keep the box small, that's why we pulled the condensate trap out on the fire tube, cause we'd had to make more room for it inside, just easier to put it on the outside. So our customer service or tech support's open 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. They're only closed Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So you should be able to get somebody on tech support if you need them. There's an 800 number to call. Use number 2 when you get in there and it'll put you in tech support. If you want to be listed on our website as an installer, just, if you have my email address, send me an email, I'll send you back a form to fill out, you send that up to Navien, and I'll list you on the website. The list today is your superior training class with a great instructor.
We'll pay you later.
But I really don't have anything else, I don't know if you guys wanna talk about stuff, you've seen all these other slides, everything's the same.
This place is right.
2 things, we do have a rewards program. Who was here earlier, I was talking about it. NavionRewards.com, you sign up, we pay you for every install. You can do co-op, you can get gear. They give away trips throughout the year. You can go to our training centers if you want through that. We're basically paying you to do every install, you're gonna get cash back. All you do is register the unit on there, provide a bill of sale, and away you go. So you register and warranty for the homeowner or the commercial job, and you're also earning money for your installs. They run boiler promos on there all the time, where you get double and triple points, or you just get a bigger check. So I know in the fall, they'll be doing it again, where it starts at like $175, but you can earn up to $275 back a unit. Every one you purchase, you get some nice coin back. So, we also have a Navien Lend program. I know a lot of equipment dealers offer this, where you can get involved in a lending agency that Navien supports, and they will finance out those jobs for you. I don't get involved in that at all, you do it, it's a third-party lending agency that we use. It's probably similar to somewhat other companies use as well, but it's available to you if you don't have any other avenue for job financing, commercial or residential.
Gentlemen? Question? Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
You brought you something.
You brought me something.
Yeah,
Alright,
got your alien head now.
perfect,
Alien,
I love it.
On sale at the store for $25, guys.
Checks in the mail?